All right, can everybody hear me loud and clear?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Awesome. So everyone, thank you for joining our webinar today, Unleash Your Nonprofit's Fundraising Cloud Strategy. My name is Tracy Thompson, and I will help facilitate our webinar today. Before we get started, I'm going to go over a few tips on using the Zoom platform so you can engage with our presenters and have the best experience possible. You should see a Zoom toolbar with icons for ask a question, chat, raise your hand. You can use the ask a question or chat to submit a question or comment during the presentation. If you need any assistance, click on the raise your hand button and I'll connect with you to help you out. We do encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentation, and we will do our best to answer them all at the end. If we don't get to your question, we'll follow up with you personally after the presentation. If you experience any audio issues, you can access your audio settings and test your audio when you are already in the meeting. At the bottom left-hand corner of the Zoom meeting toolbar, you'll find either the headphones or microphone logo to join audio or mute, unmute. Click Join Audio to choose to connect to your computer audio or dial into the meeting with a phone. Once your audio is connected, click Mute to disable or Unmute to enable your audio. And as a reminder, we will be sending out these slides and recording to everybody that has registered to the presentation today. With that, I'd like to introduce you to our presenters, Chris Stiegel, a director with our Salesforce Consulting, Brenda Kaler, our director of our nonprofit client engagement, and Turner Jones, a senior Salesforce consultant. Chris, do you want to kick it off?
You bet. Good day, everyone. Good afternoon. Chris Stiegel, based in Kansas City. And as Tracy mentioned, I run our Salesforce practice at Armanino.
Awesome. All right. So we're going to go ahead and kick it off right now with the first polling question to get some engagement with you guys. I'm going to go ahead and launch that now. All right. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
You see the polling question? Perfect. What tools or applications are you using today for donor management? Razor's Edge, Razor's Edge XT, Salesforce, Donor Perfect, or other? Please write into comments.
FYI for everybody listening, option 2 is Razor's Edge NXT. We dropped a letter there.
My fault. Just testing you there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and end the poll here. And you guys can go ahead and respond to those answers. Do you guys see the polling question answers? Did it come up?
Not yet.
Oh, nope. I'm sorry. There you go. My fault.
There we go.
Thank you.
Great.
All right.
Like everybody is using other options there. If you wouldn't mind just letting us know in the chat what you're using today for donor management. I hope it's bigger than Excel.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing that.
Great, Tracy, thank you for kicking us off with the polling question. Appreciate that. And as mentioned, if you can let us know what systems you are using. If you're not using one of those listed, that would be great. It's always nice to know what other technologies are out there and available for our clients. But I thought it might be good to just talk a little bit about the Nonprofit Success Pack and really what is Salesforce. So many folks don't know what Salesforce has to offer. Salesforce is an enormous platform that offers a lot of value. We try to simplify it here for you just so you have some context. The Nonprofit Success Pack is a system, a platform that was actually designed by nonprofit experts for nonprofits. It's a very configurable system for donations, tracking constituents by household, tracking volunteers, a whole host of applications to help you better manage your organization and ultimately achieve your mission more effectively. It started as an open source solution built by the community of, as I mentioned, by a community of nonprofits, and now it's part of the powerful Salesforce platform. So we're going to talk today a lot about excellence from a donation standpoint, but just be aware that the Nonprofit Success Pack has a variety of applications, including marketing, program management, community engagement, volunteers, and of course, fundraising. So with that, I will hand it to the next slide, and I think that's Brenda.
Awesome. So if you're here, you're probably like most folks and experiencing all of these things. So the Great Resignation, as nonprofits, we know that we are always trying to do more with less. But the Great Resignation has really brought that to the forefront because people are leaving and it's taking a while to replace them. And so thinking about how can we automate things? How can we make things quicker, smoother, faster? And how can we make sure that we're staying in touch with our major donors and grantors there? And so thinking about ways to leverage technology, process improvement to help you work smarter instead of harder. Inflation and supply chain risk have really put a lot of pressure on expenses at a nonprofit. And so getting approval for additional headcount is always tough. But this year, I feel like it's even tougher than normal and making a lot of the cost of programs cost more money. So that's causing a disruption in fundraising as well, because we know that everybody is feeling the effects of the pandemic over the last couple of years. Many donors have been slowing a lot of those special or one-time only gifts that they gave during the pandemic. We saw a big surge in new donors who were looking for new ways to be able to support folks and organizations through the pandemic. And we'd love to retain them as donors. So how can we keep that going? And then legacy systems. Again, this kind of plays into that supply chain thing, get chip shortages, server shortages. I had a client that their server died and they just couldn't get a replacement for 8 months. And they're like, we can't go 8 months without all of our systems. We've got to have something in place as soon as possible. And so thinking about what do those legacy systems cost to actually maintain all of that hardware on premises? Is it time to move to the cloud? Have you moved other functions into the cloud? Lot less to maintain because part of your annual subscription fee for most SaaS-based software is going to include that maintenance. Salesforce is really unique in the fact that for nonprofits through the salesforce.org ecosystem, you can actually get 10 free licenses per year. So once you pay for the implementation, you don't have any ongoing costs if you have less than 10 folks. If you've got more than 10, then they make you a great deal on that. So that can be a really wonderful way to think about how can I reduce that infrastructure cost and make us more efficient in the process. Next slide.
I do think I fixed the chat function, by the way. So hopefully that's working.
Awesome.
Yep.
I do see everyone as an option there. So go ahead and drop your comments or questions in the chat, and we'll be able to get right back to you. So how does Salesforce specifically help nonprofits? So there's a lot of different workflows and processes. You may be using Excel for a lot today, or email even for that, which can get lost when we have transitions with staff that leave or that are out on PTO at summertime. So a lot of people are going to have those travel schedules, maybe getting those approvals or those follow-ups on any paper-based processes, or getting stuck in somebody's email or on their desk if you are in the office again. So thinking about how can we make those workflows visible through more people throughout the organization so that you can keep an eye on them. How can we automate some of those repetitive manual processes that you may be doing today? And how can we eliminate those duplication of manual data entry into multiple different systems? So Salesforce, usually that revenue information has got to get over to your finance team so that they can get that into the ERP so that they can reconcile it with the bank account. So it's kind of a three-way match that we're doing here between all of these processes to get all of our data in the right place, reconciled, making sure we're not double counting things and that it's all in the right place. And how do we engage our constituents? How do we reach the people that we're not reaching? Those one-time donors, those new donors that we acquired in the pandemic. How do we keep them? And of course, there's so much more stuff that can be done in the Salesforce ecosystem than we have time to touch on in our quick 30-minute webinar today. But one of the things I will notice is just one of the statistics, which I think was really powerful, is that there was a 17% reduction in cost per dollar raised from folks that implemented Salesforce, and a 24% increase in donor retention. And so really having that visibility to your entire ecosystem can really increase the engagement that they have, decrease your costs, and the time to close an opportunity. Anything else to add on this one, Chris?
No, Brenda, that's that's right on point. I think you really touched on it, and I'm glad it's also noted here on the slide on the right. The integration from an email standpoint, the integration out of the box with all of the major social media platforms. A lot of these capabilities are simply configurable features that simply need to be enabled, that are already in the platform and part of the base configuration. So great job.
Awesome. And I think that brings us to our next polling question.
Yep, polling question number 2. All right, so we have number 2, is your donor management system integrated with your accounting system ERP? Yes or no?
And this is a really important question, I think, because of that three-way match we were just talking about. That can take a lot of time, and most traditional donor management systems aren't going to have a cutoff. And so you could change things that maybe you had submitted last week. And so it looks like we're a little bit more tilted towards yes than no, but that's really great, because normally we don't see these things integrated, but that can be a big time saver. So if you're in that 36% that hasn't integrated yet, something to think about is how can we eliminate that data entry?
Perfect. Thanks everybody for the polling answers. And here's the next slide.
Fantastic. So the next 3 slides, Brenda and I are going to talk a little bit about some of the actual use cases that have occurred with our clients. And we thought this might be a good lead in because Turner's actually going to show you the system here in a bit to demo its capabilities and give you a real feel for the platform and what that user experience might look like. But in the meantime, nonprofits is we have more nonprofit clients at Armanino than we have in any other industry. So it's a very large piece of our business, and so we'd like to bring some of these success cases to the table. Sierra Health Foundation is a great example of that. Sacramento-based nonprofit, very successful social services organization, really grappling with the challenges that I think we see occur again and again across our clients. Well, at the end of the day, systems and tools and the capabilities associated with those systems really enable our clients to achieve their mission, and it's no different for Sierra Health. They were held back by legacy technology. They were held back by a lack of efficiency and process. But through implementing Salesforce and some additional components that are available for through Salesforce or with Salesforce, along with integration to the ERP, really enabled them to get a more complete view of their business, eliminate operational challenges like duplicate data and the sort of issues that can cause. And at the end of the day, what Salesforce and our capabilities in Armanino, along with your ERP integration, allows is for you to migrate to a platform, a successful platform that really creates harmony between your front office and your back office, and ultimately gives you the tools and capabilities to be more successful. So Sierra Health's a great example. Very active nonprofit, growing, tons of activity on the grant side, and we've been able to bring them some tremendous efficiency by way of these technologies.
Awesome. So the one I'm going to talk about is Family Equality. So this is a social services organization located in New York, and they had experienced rapid organizational growth. And so one of the things that they had realized is they actually had Salesforce already, and they engaged us to re-implement it because they felt they really hadn't taken and harnessed the power of the solution on their original implementation. And they wanted to really re-implement it, reimagine what was possible and build it for the organization, not only that they are today, but the one that they wanted to be in 5 to 10 years. And they really wanted a consultant that would be able to help them see that vision and make sure that things that they were planning on doing, like integrations and different lines of work, were going to be able to grow with them and to build that software out and that framework to allow them to change as the organization got bigger. So one of the favorite things from this implementation that I loved is that they estimated that we saved 1 week of staff time for them because we eliminated double data entry. We made it easier to get all of that revenue information into their ERP. We did an integration for them to get that information in there. And we also automated the budget process because a lot of the budgeting in a nonprofit is around the revenue and the expenses from those grants, and it's dictated a lot of the times contractually. And so how can we get that visibility into the system so that we can see, because of course none of our grants ever line up perfectly with our year end, and so getting that information in a better way to be able to do that was good for them, and it really allowed them to realize some savings in time as well as in additional headcount. Chris, take us home with the last one.
You bet. You bet. Thanks, Brenda. And I love this use case with Urban Alchemy. There's so many components of this solution that make this such a powerful solution for this organization and organizations that have a similar challenge. So I think there's 2 key components with Urban Alchemy: a desire to engage donors more effectively, and obviously serve their communities in a better way as well. And because of what they do in terms of addressing homelessness and mental illness and addiction, a lot of this work happens in the field. So when you take that and you combine it with the pandemic, you have a real need to be able to be effective and achieve your mission in a remote or mobile type situation. So with Urban Alchemy, not only were we able to bring together multiple technologies to make them more effective, like Classy, like MailChimp, we're also able to take advantage of Salesforce's out-of-the-box capabilities to support work that has to happen in the field and with remote volunteers. So really powerful solution. I always tell people MailChimp's a great example. It's a nice platform, it's a nice tool, but blasting away emails into the ethos with no idea of who's clicking on what and no feedback at all coming back to the organization is not a strategy. Integrate that with Salesforce, and now we're on to something. Now we're starting to get some feedback, we're starting to get data back, and we can start to measure the ROI of these campaigns. We can start to understand how our donors or constituents are reacting to the content that's going out into the market, and ultimately be more effective. And I think that's true with Urban Alchemy and so many of other clients that have similar use cases. Turner.
All right, so Chris kind of mentioned this Chris and Brenda, when we were going through the case studies, but Salesforce has a ton of integration partners. So currently there's over 5,000 App Exchange partners on the Salesforce App Exchange. And there's also a ton of them are free, especially for nonprofits. If they're not free, Salesforce really encourages their partners to offer discounts to nonprofits. So in my opinion, one of the biggest benefits to using Salesforce is that you also get to use those other best-in-class tools for your fundraising, for like Classy or Click and Pledge, maybe One Cause for online and like text to give, Slack and Teams for internal chat and file management, and then even like Wealth Engine or a donor search for helping you mine that donor data and identify donors. So these are all really common best-in-class tools that we use. Salesforce also, through the Salesforce Foundation, has a lot of add-on packages as well. So NPSP, or the Nonprofit Success Pack, that's the most common nonprofit tool that's added onto Salesforce. It's just an app, like an iPhone app, that gets added onto Salesforce to customize it for nonprofits. They've also got a volunteer add-on that we'll talk about, and then I'll show you a little bit about. There is also a program management module, and that's one of the newer modules that Salesforce has, and that's all about tracking your programs, services, anytime a constituent engages with your program, and then tracking that service delivery. So you really can get those outcomes and measurements that you need for grant reporting or for donor reporting as well. Salesforce also has an outbound funds module, and this is something we actually implemented for Sierra Health on the last screen, and that is for foundation-style nonprofits that are actually giving funds out. And then with all of these different modules and with Salesforce and NPSP, you can also extend your internal version of Salesforce with Salesforce Experience Cloud. And that gives you the ability to have like donor portals or volunteer portals, or even like a program portal if you have your constituents logging in. Tracy, do you want to stop sharing and I can start sharing?
Yep, all you.
All right, so we don't have a ton of time today, and I could probably talk about Salesforce for days at this point. So we're just going to walk through a few dashboards that we've thrown together. So as Brenda mentioned, NPSP, you get the first 10 licenses free. And with those 10 licenses, there's up to 70 reports and dashboards like pre-packaged that come right out of the box. So this is a combination of those pre-packaged dashboards and then some additional ones that we know are beneficial to this audience. So this is just a development analysis dashboard. So this is going to be kind of relating to all of our closed-won opportunities. So our where we've gotten the pledge, right? A hard pledge, at least, or cash in the door. So you can see, so a great dashboard component that Salesforce has is called a gauge. So it helps you track your like progress towards goal. So with Salesforce, these dashboards are all real time. So anytime that someone's logging in, they are going to have the latest and greatest information. It's also mobile ready, so you can get it on your phone with the Salesforce app, which is free, and you can also subscribe to it. So if you wanted it in your email box every morning, when you got into the office, you could have the latest and greatest information emailed to you. So we've just got a little bit of analysis of a breakdown by account type. So whether it's coming from a household or an organization, whether it's a donation or a grant. And then I've also got a couple of programs set up in this org. So this is just showing our land program, fundraising goal. So not doing so hot on that, doing better on the water program. Some other great metrics that Salesforce or that NPSP will give you right out of the box are these LIBUNT and SIBUNT reports, and these stand for last year, but unfortunately not this year, and some year, but unfortunately not this year. So, and that's in reference to a gift. So they've given to us last year, but not this year. So it really helps you as the year progresses. This can be either your fiscal year or the calendar year. you can identify those, you know, really recent donors that you should be targeting. Okay, so this is a development forecasting style dashboard. So this is looking forward and kind of managing your opportunity pipeline, which traditionally is going to be grants. It could be larger individual pledges as well. So I've got a similar gauge. This is just showing our progress towards goal. And then up at the top, we've got some forecast summaries, right? So we've got our one-ops, what we've got in the pipeline so far, what we're kind of forecasted to be at the end of the year based on our pipeline. And then if we win everything 100%, we would end at 1.8 million. This shows us, so looking forward, these are all of our opportunities that are going to close throughout the next year. And you can see that these colors identify what the stage of the opportunity is. So this is, this tells you kind of how far along you are in the grant process, like how likely a opportunity is to be won, right? So something in qualification in December, maybe that makes sense because that's further out, but you would expect everything closer in to be either in like application submitted, or you've gotten a verbal pledge, or it's a hard pledge. Here I've got just the major gifts that are coming up. So like with your team, you could pull this up and basically walk through all of the updates that have been made since your last meeting, right? And we've got the probabilities over here as well. Another table that I really like as a CPA is this cash flow forecast. So this, so as you've got your opportunities in the system, you can actually forecast out what your weekly cash inflow would be based on your pipeline. So as a CFO, this is extremely valuable information. You can see we've got a huge spike here, but then towards the middle of October, we're down to $25. So cash flow management is essential to business and nonprofits. And then the last one that I'm going to show you.
We have about 1 minute left. Just
is this volunteer dashboard. Some cool metrics you can run. So, you know, as development professionals, your volunteer database should be a huge opportunity for you, right, to get donations. So with this, I've got some metrics up here that say are like gifts from people who volunteered this year, like what's our total, and then like what's our percentage. Like those are great KPIs that you can easily measure with Salesforce, as well as like total hours that volunteers have volunteered this year, how many unique volunteers you've had.
And this is really great because this really shows the power of Salesforce beyond just using it as a CRM to track donors. We can see if a donor is also volunteering and what their areas of interest are, or maybe if our volunteers haven't donated yet, what are their areas of interest? How can we tailor an ask that would be more likely for them to say yes to?
Yeah.
So
and Salesforce is, okay.
I was just going to say short and sweet with 30 minutes. So we didn't have time for questions here today. If you do have any questions, we will be reaching out and sending the slides and the recording to everybody that was here today. So please don't hesitate to respond to that and let us know how we can help.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for attending. I appreciate it. Thanks to our presenters. And again, I will send these out shortly. Have a good day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks.